It's the spirit for me. Hey guys, welcome to your favorite late night sessions with your one and only Bean. Today we're joined by the amazing, the beautiful South African award-winning singer, songwriter, and powerhouse of a performer, Palesa Nomthandazo Phumelele Modiga, aka Zoë Modiga. Hey
Yes, yes,
Zoe.
yes. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. And yourself?
I am great. The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, and yeah, just blessed to be alive.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're now getting used to starting conversations in this way, but how are you coping during these crazy times and this sad pandemic?
Days are not the same. Some days are a lot more challenging than others to get through. But I've chosen to subscribe to just taking it an hour at a time every day, and being kind to myself and whatever thoughts I may wake up with in a particular day, But it is challenging, but every day is not the same. I'm just happy that today is one of those amazing days. Today is amazing not because of anything than the fact that it's just amazing. And I think that's a beautiful space for me to be in right now. Yeah. So I'm going to try and make sure it lasts as long as possible.
Please do.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Just give us a bite size into who Zoe is, your background, what you're all about.
So I would say Zoë Modiga is in a privileged position to have a platform to tell people stories and to reflect life through art, and I'm able to do that by meeting up with people, observing loved ones, sharing a little bit about my own life as well. But I'm just in a privileged position to be able to just share life and the beauty of what life is and the complexity and the layers of what life is through music. But yeah, I'm passionate about being alive. It hasn't always been that way, but I'm glad to have evolved into a space of being passionate about being alive. And I realize that it isn't challenging for us as people. And so I just hope I am that thing that reminds people that it's okay to be alive and that we take it one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, and we'll be fine no matter what life and lessons are thrown at us.
At us, yeah. That's deep. And how long have you been in the industry? Or when did you first discover your love for your craft and realize that I want to pursue a career in this?
So my first walk into music was very naturally. I was raised in Pietermaritzburg in Bali, and it's a township setting. And I think a lot of people who live in township settings will relate with the idea of music playing very, very, very loud. Every neighbor playing their own music and having their own soundtrack that they play, So on one end, there would be umama who would be playing songs, gospel songs. On one end, there would be neighbors who are hungover, who are playing umbaqanga. On the other end, So for me, I was able to really relate people's lives and experiences to how powerful music is when it's a soundtrack to people. Even today, there's some songs that I listen to and I think of the people that I was around when I was growing up, And I think that speaks to the power of music. And it's what I fell in love with first. How music is the soundtrack to people's lives. And then over time, I think in grade 4, that was my first audition ever. With Mr. Ndlovu, who was the choir conductor for a junior choir at the St. Nicholas Diocesan School. We had to sing Happy Birthday to him. And that was my first opportunity to audition and then to lead a choir, and over time I've been able to do at Stedfords and win all kinds of beautiful competitions. And it just really flowed into itself, So it's very difficult to say when did it all begin for me, It's just always been there. If I were to actually put it, I would say that music brainwashed me from the very beginning, and I'm grateful for that.
We are also grateful. We are so grateful.
Thank you.
So you are a National School of Arts alumnus, and I think you studied jazz performance at UCT, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So clearly you secured, like really secured the musical bag. But where else would you accredit your musicality? Like, who would you say inspired you or has continued to inspire you as a musician?
I would still take it back to my childhood and the things I was exposed to and the things that I saw. I feel like music is a vehicle to tell stories, and that if you listen to the message of what music is saying, it already dictates the musicality of it. Because if you're having a conversation with someone and you turn that into music, it will sound like a conversation, If you're crying about something and you turn that into music, the music will sound like it's crying. So I would say my musicality comes from the power of storytelling and how you would tell those stories if that music wasn't there. And music being just an extension of that story, But I'm definitely privileged to have had all the audition experience and the competitions and being able to be exposed to learning about the classical world and the jazz world. And I think that's definitely helped as well. But it really just boils back down to stories,
Stories, yeah. So my favorite part, can you talk us through the creative process of Inganekwane? I mean, first of all, that album, congrats.
Thank you.
Congrats. How did you navigate the process of making such a deep and momentous project during lockdown, Nochal?
I appreciate that. When I was writing the music that would become Inganekwane, it was definitely not the pandemic. It was literally 2019 where everything seemed okay,
Yeah.
And I was in a space of having performed a lot of music from my debut album, Yellow the Novel. And in performing that album, I realized that it really moved a lot of people because it was really talking about self-reflection. But as I was performing it, I would find that the audience would just react differently to a song there in that album called Inganekwane, which is really just a love song that talks about heartbreak. And my whole thing about that particular song was that it really was the idea of using language to express extreme emotion. I find that especially when English is your second language, when you feel deeply about something, whether you're irritated or you're heartbroken or you're sad or you're happy, the language aspect is what tends to peak out, And I realized that, there's something to be said about language, especially whatever first language that you speak and how it just moves through you in the way that it does. And I was very, very intimidated to write in my language because as much as I say isiZulu is my first language, I didn't feel like I had the tools that I needed to tell our stories in our language. That was really just my own insecurities as a young body, a young Black body that assimilates to a world that is not for me, But I started writing and it just came so naturally when it did, It's like spirit just came down and just told all those stories that needed to be told. And I'm glad that I was allowing of myself to be used in that way. As much as I was insecure and as much as I wasn't brave, I think by mere fact of just being empty and not having any expectations, I was able to then engage the album that became Inganekwane, and I was watching a lot of Uthandiswa Mazwaye on stage, which was such a beautiful anchor for me to see something in the modern world that represents something that I would want to engage. I started having a lot of conversations, even with people intimately, about what it means to be Black in this world, and I found myself to be a little upset that we are always at the bottom of the food chain. And I was just really going down that rabbit hole in different ways, watching documentaries, all kinds of things. And I guess that's what then came out, the need to express that, even though I didn't feel like I had everything I needed to do that. But I'm so grateful for what it is and what it's meaning to people right now. It's nothing I could have foreseen,
Yeah. So art can be a purpose in its own, right?
Absolutely.
But it can also directly feed back into everyday life, like take on a social and political role and lead to more engagement and change. So can you describe your approach to art and being an artist and what impact you would like your music to make in today's world?
That is such an interesting question. I feel that for me, again, everything goes back to people's stories and people seeing themselves reflected in stories. And I think by mere fact that I'm a human being means I'm able to empathize with the human experience, as layered as it is. There's certain things I go through, there's certain things I don't go through. There's certain things I experience, there's certain things I learn from other people. And I think music has a beautiful way of being able to transform our spaces by allowing us to engage with each other, regardless of whether we have experienced or lived something or whether we haven't. And that on its own allows us to have conversations about social ills, conversations about our hearts being broken, conversations about what our philosophies are, what our belief systems are, what are the things we don't agree with in the world. And I just definitely want to be an artist that is known and remembered to be inspired by the higher power, an artist that evokes emotion, an artist who is not necessarily trying to be controversial, but does not mind being controversial either. An artist that really just is a soundtrack to people's lives and is able to facilitate or to encourage conversations to happen, And I think it's by mere coincidence that this year within Ganegwane, we were stepping into a world of finally being able to look at Black bodies and engage that conversation more intensely, because we weren't distracted by many other things. We had to look into ourselves. And I think society had to look into what it is. And I'm glad that the album has been able to be a part of that conversation of being a Black body, of celebrating a Black body, of not disregarding a Black body, of the experiences that happen, and the ways that we can celebrate what we are as Black bodies. Even though a lot of the topics are a love letter to Black bodies, I also am aware that it can move far beyond just that and into what being human is, But I really just hope to be able to create honestly, and that is not an easy thing to do, because it means you have to let go of your own perceptions of what you want, what successes you see for yourself. Just allow yourself to be a vessel. And the rest is unwritten. We'll definitely see how it goes.
We'll watch the space.
We'll watch the space.
So, there's the artist, right? Or the artist persona.
Yes.
Versus the human being themselves, like who Zoë is really, really. Is there a difference between Zoë, the musician, the artist, and Zoë, the daughter, the sister, the friend? Or is it still the same person? Is there something that separates or divides the two?
I would say that Zoë Modiga, the brand and the musician, is a God expression of who I am. And what I mean by that is that when you come to my shows and my performances, it isn't me who takes the lead, but it is spirit that takes the lead. And so I don't think that I can say that is entirely me, but I can say it is a heightened, imagined magic of who I am, But I also like the idea of not being so far removed as who I am as a person to my music. I would like to also work on who it is that I am as a human being a good person, being a decent human being, and being able to marry that into my brand, because I think there's something to be said about making up who you are. And I would like to think that that's not what I lead with. And I might have my lashes on and have my costume changes and all of that. But I just definitely think it's just a heightened expression of who I am. And I try to be as as easy of a human being to relate with as I possibly can be, while still holding my own
Yeah.
identity and my ideas and my convictions, but I think both things marry into themselves. I know I keep to myself as a person, but when I do interact in spaces of being out there in the world, I love to lead with honesty, and not to have a filtered way about who it is that I am as a person, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a very interesting question, though. I think that's a very interesting question. And I suppose I'm kind of thinking as I'm saying this, because I feel that as much as I am a person, I also am a brand, and I'm also a commodity. And there is a
Yeah.
selling point to what that is. Not just by me, but by a lot of entertainers that I love and look up to. I'm sure Beyonce is an amazing human being, but when she's on stage, she's also selling a magic and an experience. And I don't think that
Yeah.
is lost on me. But I do think I like to speak to my audience and interact with them, even off stage, and just talk about other things that aren't music, and kind of relate on a human level, because honestly, that's what we are at the end of the day. And I think that
Yeah.
allows for me not to be put on this unreachable pedestal as well, which is something I'm
Pedestal.
afraid of.
Yeah.
So by just being able to be, we're able to all just relate, as opposed to, oh, there is this higher than image of Zoë Modiga, and wow, not always wow.
She's unreachable.
Exactly. And that's not
Yeah.
entirely true, even if it can be from time to time.
And what's your take on the cancel culture, in the sense of, should we separate the artist and their personality and their behavior from their craft? Like, where do we draw that line? For example, if I love an artist, but they're not exactly the nicest person, they're like a nasty person, but they produce beautiful music. So what's your thought on that? Do we cancel them? Do you think the audiences just hold artists at too high of a standard, forgetting that they're also human?
Ooh, that is
what do we do in such a situation?
That is a very interesting question. Again, going back to the idea of being a public figure, I think being a public figure is, to some extent, selling an image, an aspiration, a hope, a dream, this place that hasn't really been gotten to necessarily, and I think there's different ways that people go about doing that. I think being a public figure is also not just selling what it is that you do, but it also involves the things you believe in. It also involves your personal politics. It also involves the way that you look at life as well, And I think being human can never be removed from that, even though some people choose to be private about that and others prefer to share their opinions about all kinds of things. But I think we're just living in a time now where it's very tricky. I would say I don't necessarily believe in cancel culture, because I think that the idea of cancel culture, to me, at least in the way that I look at it, is that it doesn't look at people as entire entities. It just looks at this public figure that has been given a responsibility to be a certain kind of way. And I think cancel culture also puts us in a position of not being able to honestly engage. We've seen it 1,000 times where a public figure makes a misstep or says something that is unpopular opinion, or something that is actually very, what's the word I'd use? Very disruptive, right? And then they put that opinion out that they believed in at the time that they put it out, but they are cancelled for that particular opinion. And then instead of that being engaged as to why that particular thing was disruptive, you'll find that they start coming out with apologies, as opposed to it being something that is engaged. And what that does is that it dismisses opinions of people, whether we like those opinions or not. And it doesn't allow us to be a society of critical thinkers, but it allows us to be a society of people that just think the popular thought, So even if you had the same opinions that particular public figure had, Now there isn't space for the world to truly engage that, even if they still choose to disagree with it. But it's just like, no, we hate how you think, and that's the end. And I don't think that is a culture to
and the
promote.
conversation doesn't happen
Exactly.
anymore.
It removes the conversation. So there's a lot of things that I've seen that I haven't agreed with, but I don't think those things are necessarily worth cancel culture, even though they've broken my heart and affected me and broken the hearts of different communities and ways of thinking, you know. We just need to talk more. And I think if we're able to talk and to express our opinions more, regardless of whether we relate with each other, it allows us to engage genuinely and to live genuinely, and not just to be living in sorries that no one means. Because that's not
that's
either,
true.
I think.
Because people have different opinions based on their different walks of life. So we should give people the platform to express themselves as well, so that we spark the conversation and see why they think so differently from the rest. And, you know, before because once you cancel that person, if maybe I, there behind the screens, also thought the same thing, I can't express myself because now I'll be bundled with that person and potentially cancelled as well.
Exactly. And now you aren't just cancelled for that thought if you bundle with that person, but you are cancelled with every other thing that person has ever done wrong in their lives. So even if you had a similar politic about a similar thing, now it's like, you like Usbanbani, therefore you hate this and you hate that and you hate that.
Exactly.
And it's just, it's not reasonable, you know. I do understand that it comes from a place of wanting to create space for a certain kind of people at that time, but I don't think it truly does that. It just puts everything under the carpet, you know.
Yeah. And what's that one misconception that you've heard about you, that people have about you?
I would say that I'm a jazz singer. That's a misconception I would say people have about me. And I know that's definitely more creative than private, but I just hear it a lot, and I understand it because a lot of the spaces I've been in are jazz spaces, and I had a lot of jazz influence in my debut album, you know, but I've been able to share different ways that I create. And so I would definitely say that is the biggest creative misconception. Yeah, I'm just an artist, and I think music is just music. And if I'm a jazz artist, that means that's what you constantly expect from me. And I cannot avail myself to that way of doing things, you know. Music is a lot more broad and vast than that.
PSA, guys, Zoe is not a jazz musician. Please do not box her.
Thank you. I love it though. I do love it, and I love the community.
Yeah, we do.
I'm a lot of other things.
So as an artist, there's a whole spectrum of creativity that you have to take on board as part of your career. The songwriting, the studio time, the music videos, the live performances. Is there any one of these particular areas of this creative process that you like more than the other?
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I want to say all, but I also don't want to lie. I honestly enjoy what all of them mean and what all of them bring, because I find that in these different processes, the way that I'm able to relate to people is like changing and beautiful. And you know, I enjoy the processes of all these things, because it's the inside jokes, it's the moment, it's the troubleshooting, you know, it's the trying to put different people and different spaces and art professions in one space, you know. But I would definitely say, for me, live performance is really one of my favorite expressions to have. I enjoy that it's finally a moment to create a world with the music lovers and the audience, and to heighten even far beyond what we may have thought the music is and what the music means. And I think the music really lives in live performance for me personally, you know. And then I would say songwriting is definitely a close second to that, because it's one of those moments where you don't suspect what anything could be, and it's this empty canvas that you start to be a vessel for, and no one, well, at least in your conscious mind, you don't know where everything is going, and it just happens.
Yeah.
And the story comes, and the words come, and
It's
the
just
music
flowing.
comes, and so it's like such a magical space to be in, but I would say those are definitely my top two. But I also enjoy being in studio with the musicians and the engineers that get to become part of really the main component of what people hear, And the music videos are hilarious because the call times are always crazy and it's madness, and we're just working against our body clocks to make magic. It's all beautiful. But I'd say live performance and songwriting for me are definitely my favorites.
Yeah. No, as a listener, I definitely agree with you on the live performances, because I oftentimes find myself in a bubble of our own world when I'm enjoying a performance. Like, it is just out of this world.
Absolutely.
It is. So you were on the first season of The Voice South Africa in 2016, right?
Yes, I was. Yes.
How did that experience on the show move your career?
And The Voice
South
Africa. This is The Voice.
Yes.
What an interesting show. Reality TV is something that honestly makes me laugh, because there are things that I can never articulate or explain about what living in that world is, because when audiences see the show, they're seeing a complete product, but there's a host of experiences behind the scenes that are just so difficult to articulate. They need a biography,
There's a lot of bloopers.
Yes, there's definitely a lot there. But that experience was so amazing. When I auditioned for The Voice South Africa, I was still living in Cape Town, and I wanted to relocate back to Johannesburg to begin my professional life and career. At the time that I had auditioned, I'd just been kicked out of varsity. So for me, it was just a way to kind of get right into the business and to be able to showcase my versatility more than anything, because what we do on the show is do covers to popular songs that exist. But what I really wanted to showcase was my versatility, going back to the idea that I don't consider myself just a jazz musician, and part of that was to showcase that. And at the time that I did The Voice, I was already a professional musician. I was already doing festivals and performing my music, but I just hadn't released my recorded album, which was Yellow the Novel, even though I was performing it, And it was amazing. Got to meet some of the most talented musicians that the country has. And I think what a lot of people don't get about The Voice is that a lot of the times, well, in that season, I can speak for that season, it was literally professional musicians that were already alive and kicking in the industry, but were probably entering the competition to be able to explore other ways of expressing and creating a buzz around their names,
Yeah.
So I met a lot of amazing musicians, Jeremy Olivier, Tembe Gamguni, Gavin. There was just so many amazing musicians there. And we obviously got to work alongside amazing coaches as well. Lyra was my coach and my mentor on the show. And for me, that was such a beautiful moment, because she had always represented this idea of performance and excellence that I aspired to in many ways, and to have direct contact to her and to be able to have her be a soundboard during the competition was so lovely as well, and she was so gracious to invite me to a show she had after the Voice season 1, where I was able to open for her at the baseline for a show that she was doing, So these relations that we had extended far beyond that competition, and I still meet up with a lot of the crew and the people that were involved in making the show happen even today, And I think it was just beautiful, man. It was just beautiful. High pressure, but I'd been used to that by then. So it was nice to kind of reinforce that and just always being on your A game and punching it, you know. But it was amazing. The rest will be on my autobiography one day.
We're going to read about it. How do you recharge your creative batteries, and how do you unwind and just maintain that balance between personal and work life?
Whew, that is an interesting question. I would say I like to spend time alone. I really think that is one of the ways that I recharge myself. I'm a true introvert. Even though I enjoy the company of people, I really feel recharged when I spend my own time, you know, just get into my own thoughts and read my book, watch the things that build me up, watch series, you know. I really enjoy that alone time. I also enjoy time with people that I love, people I care for, and people that care for me. And I love that the circle that I'm in is filled with people that do different kinds of things. So even the conversation of music is not something that is always there. You know, I'm able to step into someone else's world and their way of looking at things and their stresses and their joys and their celebration, you know. So I really get a lot of relaxation from that, you know, and a lot of being grounded and getting away from, you know, from my personal life. And I would say it's just that, spending time alone, spending time with people who are really beloved to me, you know, and embracing those experiences and making those memories, you know. Yeah.
And what's the greatest advice that you've ever received from a fellow musician?
Ooh, that is interesting. Let me think about this. What is the greatest? Ooh, okay. So there's this producer, bassist called Banda Banda, who was a big part of Inganegwane, right? Yeah. And he has worked with so many celebrated people. And one of these people are the late and great Mambongile Khumalo.
Yeah.
And he had said that she shared with him the power of learning and unlearning in music. So when you listen to something, how can you learn from it? How can you unlearn from it? When you go to an event, what can you learn from it? What can you unlearn from it? And being in a constant process of learning and unlearning is such a beautiful part of growing as a musician, you know. And I would say from Mambongile Khumalo herself, when I won the Samro Overseas Scholarship Competition in 2015, that was the first encounter that I had with her. And she had said to me that I must make sure I take care of my voice. And I think that is one of the most valuable lessons that I learned, because a few years later, I lost my voice. In fact, when I was recording Nganegwane, my voice was not all the way there where it normally is, you know. And I literally thought about what she said and I was like, oh, mama, she said I must look after my voice. So now I definitely take better care of my voice. I make sure I do warm-ups. I make sure I stay away from things that aren't, you know, necessarily good for my voice. I make sure I don't have smoke machines when I perform, because those don't help. I make sure I don't have an air conditioner when I'm in a car, especially if I'm going to perform, because that thins my voice. You know, I try to drink tea and honey. And I think it's so important to respect our vessels, because the longevity of that is what will allow me to continue to telling the stories that I feel I've been given the purpose and the platform to tell, you know. So that was definitely the good advice I can remember. But I've been advised a lot. I'm grateful. But that's what's at the top of my head.
Yeah. And what advice do you have for upcoming artists, or like the young dreamer who wants to set off in the same direction as you did?
I would say be honest about what story it is that you want to tell, you know. The magic of music will definitely carry you through what that honesty is to you. And you being honest will require you to be brave, because the world doesn't like honesty. That's the truth about it. And honesty requires you to be very brave. I think the world prefers that we are all carbon copies of each other, and that we don't have our own thoughts and our ways of thinking. And the truth is that if we're allowed to be individuals, I feel at least that we are in a better place of transforming the world that we live in, because it takes that one idea that disrupts how the world works to make the world a better place, True. So definitely encourage young creatives to be honest and know that if that is the baton you choose to carry, it will be met up with a lot of disruption, but you will definitely be fulfilled. I will tell you that for free. And your ideas, I hope that they keep you up at night and they light up a fire, and that you see people's faces when you see your honesty paying off.
And famous last words?
Famous last words. I don't know. I would say thank you to all the music lovers that have been a part of my journey from the very infant stages of it to right now, and to just ask people to come into my world if they wish to be elevated and to have a space created for them to just simply be who they are. So I think those are my last famous words.
Thank you so much, Zoe. This has been beautiful. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation as well.
It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Okay, Zoe, take care.
You too. Again, we have fought.
We have fought a good fight, and we conquered. We did the thing.
Oh, that's funny. But thank you. I really enjoyed that. Take care.
Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in to that lovely catch-up session that we just had with our WCW Zoë Modiga. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. The track at the beginning is Umdali, and I'm leaving you guys with Abantu from the album Inganekwane by Zoë Modiga. Enjoy, take care, and stay blessed from you being with the biggest love.
Akusifanele njengabantu abamnyama noma silthanda lokhu bathina akusho ukuthi kumele siphile kanjena uzojikizinto jikizinto jikizinto uzojikizinto jikizinto jikizinto snamata bantabang asikho siphile kanje